Hey, welcome back to Matt's Garage DIY. Today we're going to make an everyday carry water survival kit. So right away some of you may be saying, hey, I don't live near the water. Neither do I. We live in the prairies, so we don't see water very often, but when we do get there, all the more reason to have some sort of emergency preparedness or everyday carry type item with you should you need to look after yourself. So the purpose of everyday carry is sort of a utility or usefulness, preparedness, and kind of self-reliance. You know what, when we as a family go out on the water, lots of times I've got a pack with, kind of our main gear. Also, I'll bring along one of these Survivor dry boxes. It kind of keeps the phones, car keys, all that kind of good stuff in there, as well as some survival type gear. But what we're looking for is what happens in those situations where you end up either losing your boat, sinking your boat, somehow being separated from your boat. So let's take a look at that. So I was at the surplus store the other day, stumbled across one of these little watertight fire kits. Basically has a ferro rod, striker, and some tinder in it. As I got looking at it, I saw it had a ton of extra room. Thought, hey, this would make a great everyday carry type container and starting base for that water survival kit. So let's get back to shore and we'll start putting it together and see what we got. So when we open up our basic kit, this is what we got. Hard plastic case, does have a rubber seal, so it is watertight. The 6 little tinders and the ferro rod and striker. This is actually good quality. That in itself is worth the $9 that we paid for this kit. So we're going to start by adding to what they've given us, starting with fire. So they've given us some tinder and a striker. We are going to add to that just a Bic mini lighter. If one way of lighting fire is good, two is always better. Next up, a little pocket knife. This is nothing fancy, just a very basic knife. If you can find a multi-tool that is about this size, that might be a good option as well. I've just sharpened that up to make sure it's got a good blade on it. Space blanket or a Mylar blanket. If you've been in the water, you want to try to retain some of that body heat as well. If you need to make some sort of a shelter, this gives you an option as a way to do that, especially if you no longer have your boat and can't use that as a type of shelter. Moving right along, we're going to look at drinking water. Yeah, you're in a lake or a river, not necessarily always good to drink. We're going to include some aqua tabs. You can use the bottom half of the container to let that water or to let the tabs activate and do their thing. Also, I've included a little pack of Starbucks instant coffee. I've included 3 adhesive band-aids and some paracord. This is about 9 feet of paracord. Just going to attach that to the top of this. What I didn't mention is that this also comes with a cheap carabiner and lanyard, so you can wear it around your neck. You can clip it onto your life jacket. I'm also just going to throw my paracord kind of on this top part. And lastly, I have included several feet of bicycle inner tube. Growing up, spent a little bit of time in Africa and noticed that the indigenous people there would save their old bicycle tubes. It is amazing what you can make with those as far as lashing, repairing things. I'd originally considered putting some duct tape on the outside of this container so you have some tape to use, but with the high likelihood that that's going to be wet, using something like this is going to work far better for you as far as even building a shelter, repairing any of your gear, that sort of stuff. So that's what we got. Let's take a little more in-depth look at a couple of these items and then we'll put it all together. All right, let's take a look at this tinder. So it comes with 6, almost look like little earplugs, but it's looks to be kind of like cotton batten. Feels sort of waxy. I think it's been impregnated with wax. It's actually quite hard to pull apart. You may want to use your knife. Just kind of pull that a little bit, get some nice loose fibers going on the end. I'm just going to use a chunk of this just to kind of show you what we got there, but there you go. So nice fibers for the sparks to take to. Our striker. There you go. So that'll burn for a while, and if you use the entire the entire tinder bundle, this would actually give you quite a good opportunity to get a fire going. So seems like a pretty reasonable tinder. It doesn't smell like it's got any solvent on it. I think it's just a wax basically with the cotton batten. With your space blanket, you have a couple of options. One, you can just wrap it around yourself. If you need to make a type of shelter, don't poke a hole in this. This material is actually quite fragile once it gets a hole in it, but you can easily take a couple round rocks, put them into a corner like that, and then just make a simple slip knot. This type of an idea. Put that around the tarp, tighten that up, and you can pull very hard on that, and that will not tear. So you can make a shelter, even if it's quite windy. You'll be able to make yourself a good shelter just by using that simple trick. So for our water, like I mentioned, we've got these aqua tabs. Just going to use the bottom half of our container. That holds about a half a cup of water. That will be the equivalent of a quarter of one of these little aqua tabs. You just have to use your knife and kind of split that up. Yes, you are around water, but lots of the lakes you don't want to necessarily drink just the way that they are. So take the time, put that aqua tab in there, clean that water up, and then you won't have any of the unfortunate side effects of drinking water with bacteria. Just the same way the nice fire can lift your spirits when you're in a survival type situation. For me, a cup of Starbucks coffee has the same effect. This little container is not going to actually work to stick in the fire. Too many pieces on it that are just going to melt or burn off. So to heat this up, basically we're going to fill this with our water, throw our aqua tab in there, and then while we're letting that sit, I'm going to take about a half dozen smooth stones and throw them right into the base of that fire. Build the fire around that. We'll come back in a couple minutes and I'm going to drop those in the water. That is going to get that water very, very hot. Could potentially get it to boiling. We're not going to do that for the sake of purification, but we're going to make ourselves a nice hot drink just by heating up those rocks. All right, the fire's been burning away for a few minutes. Filled up the bottom half of my container with some cold water. Just going to, I've got a couple more sticks here. I'm going to pull that fire back and start dropping my rocks into here. You can see the bubbles coming off that already. So obviously not very good with chopsticks. Put that next rock in there. Oop. Wow. Okay, rock number 3. Rock number 4. And one more for good measure. There you go. That water actually just reached kind of boiling. Whoa, that is quite hot. Much hotter than you're going to actually want to drink right now. But there's going to be a little bit of soot on those rocks. That's okay. Charcoal is not bad for you. Pour in some of your Starbucks Via. This is only a half a cup of water, so you could probably make yourself 2 or 3 cups, and you have got a very nice hot drink there that gives you a bit of energy, helps you pass some time, either till you can start walking out or till somebody comes to find you.